Hello and welcome, everyone. My name is Susan Hearn, CEO of Germane Solutions, and I'll be the moderator for today's webinar, Annual Updates and Citations, How to Stay Ahead of Major Changes. By participating in today's webinar, you'll gain the tools to understand the key components for implementing major program and institutional changes, develop consistent and effective responses to citations, identify best practices for reviewing and updating program documents, recognize the importance of timing and documentation in maintaining accreditation readiness, and apply proven strategies and real-world examples to streamline updates and strengthen citation responses. Before I introduce today's speakers, there are a few administrative items to note. Participants have been muted upon entry to the session. If for any reason your audio is showing unmuted, please mute yourself to eliminate background noise during the presentation. We've made every effort to reduce technical issues with the webinar presentation. If you have problems of any kind, please indicate them to Hunter Rich in a private chat on the platform. The slide presentation and webinar broadcasts are provided exclusively for the use of registrants and should not be saved. Reproducing, distributing, or transmitting any session materials or the live presentation to any other group or individual requires express permission from Germane Solutions. If you have questions throughout the session, please submit them in the chat feature. We'll be answering questions as they come, as well as during a dedicated question and answer time at the end of the session. If we're unable to address all the questions in the allotted time, or if you have questions that you don't want to include in the public method, you'll have the opportunity to submit them via email afterward. Every registered participant for this session will receive an email containing a link to our survey so we can obtain feedback about the webinar. The survey is brief and we encourage your comments. Now let me introduce our speakers, Claire Hauck and Amber Lebowski. Claire is a senior consultant at Germane Solutions and serves as Germane Solutions Accreditation Service Line Lead. She has extensive experience supporting institutions through accreditation, program development, and strategic GME assessments. Claire's work spans the full life cycle of GME programs, equipping her with deep insights into the timing, documentation, and compliance strategies that sustain accreditation readiness. Amber is a senior consultant at Germane Solutions and serves as Germane Solutions Operations Service Line Lead. With nearly a decade of healthcare experience, Amber specializes in institutional accreditation, operational infrastructure, and program evaluation. Her expertise lies in designing systems and tools that support consistent updates, strong documentation, and successful site visits. Together, Claire and Amber bring complementary expertise across accreditation and operations, making them well equipped to guide today's session. They've supported institutions and programs nationwide with accreditation planning, citation response strategies, and documentation best practices, offering practical, proven insights grounded in real-world GME experience. And let me turn the session over to our speakers. Claire, you can begin.
Perfect. Thank you, Susan. So we will start today's webinar with a high-level overview of ADS and the annual reporting cycle. The annual reporting cycle is a required and critical component that is used by the ACGME to ensure that both programs and sponsoring institutions remain compliant with accreditation standards. It also gives programs and institutions the opportunity to disclose various educational activities, strengths related to the clinical training program, and any ongoing improvements that you're working on. Now, one of the great things about the GME academic calendar is that it is cyclical, which means you can anticipate when items will be due and prepare well in advance of any required ACGME updates. Through continuous monitoring and tracking of improvement efforts, your program and institution can set yourself up for success in the eyes of the ACGME. Each year, ACGME programs and sponsoring institutions participate in the ADS update, which we're going through right now, which is a critical part of maintaining compliance, ensuring educational quality, and preparing for accreditation decisions by the ACGME. The annual update opened in July for both programs and institutions, but there are different due dates just depending on the specialty and whether you're a sponsoring institution. For those institutions, the annual ADS updates are due August 1st, which I believe is next Friday. My calendar serves me correctly. For programs that don't use case log data, these updates are due August 22nd, whereas specialties that do utilize case log data, annual updates are due by September 19th, just to allow you more time to get that data acquired. Following this ADS submission, each respective review committee, whether it be the institutional or the residency review committees, will review all changes submitted, and a letter of notification will be issued to relay accreditation status, issued any citations or areas for improvement. Now, since these timelines are predictable and the ACGME provides these deadlines well in advance of their due dates, one of the best ways to stay compliant and reduce last-minute stress is by maintaining your documentation throughout the year. This can include keeping a list of resident or fellow participation in scholarly activity throughout the year, documenting any major changes that occur in real time, monitoring action plans that resulted from last academic year, and noting the improvements that have occurred, and addressing any updates to the ACGME requirements, such as the change in requirement formatting that recently went into effect July 1st. In the next few slides, we'll discuss the various components that need to be updated as part of this annual reporting cycle. The institutional ADS update provides the review committee with essential information on how you are supporting resident and fellow education. We'll go into this a little bit more in depth in later slides, but just wanted to cover some key areas that need to be addressed as part of this update. Changes to participating sites or institutional leadership should be addressed. Any changes or updates relating to oversight and the reporting structure for your GME programs. Action plans and outcomes from the annual institutional review. Changes to the GMEC structure and new or updated subcommittees. Significant changes in resources, curriculum, or trainee physical spaces that are available. Narrative responses and action plans for all open institutional citations. In addition to these items, we also strongly recommend that institutions address any areas for improvement that they have within the major changes section. The required program ADS annual update also allows your program to report on educational activities, resources, and structural or curricular changes in order to demonstrate compliance with the ACGME requirements. It's important to confirm that your program's general information and profile page is accurate. This may not necessarily need to be updated each year if nothing really has changed in that regard, but just ensuring that everything is effective and currently in place. So this includes the name of the sponsoring institution, the program director details and contact information. If there's been a leadership change, you would have had to make a formal request and submit that to the ACGME. But one of the key components for this program director is ensuring that their contact information is correct, as that is what will be reflected on the public ADS page. It's also important to review and update the clinical experience in education, resources, and overall evaluation method section to ensure accuracy. This is where you'll make any changes if there are updates to your clinical competency committee or program evaluation committee, as well as any methods for reporting that's reflected in these sections. This is also where you will update and respond to new and existing citations, as well as enter your program's major changes. We'll go into responding to citations and major changes a little bit more in depth in future slides. But a few items that may be included in your major changes section include any faculty updates, so if there are new or faculty who have left, participating site and rotation structure changes, so if there was a new site added or one that's been removed from your program, ensuring that the site listing is accurate, as well as the block schedule that's uploaded. Any well-being and educational initiatives, this is a great opportunity to highlight how your program is promoting these. Responses to areas of improvement in prior action plans, and any other pertinent program updates. This is really your opportunity to highlight your strengths of the program, as this is the main way that ACGME reviews your program and institution without a site visit. It's also crucial to review your full faculty list. So add any new core or teaching faculty, remove those that are no longer involved, and always remember to update and review each faculty member's board certifications, licenses, and roles within the program. Now, one important note and major change, I believe, for the ADS update this year is that programs no longer have to enter their scholarly activity for faculty members, and this will be true moving forward. So that is a big lift that programs no longer have to do as part of this annual reporting cycle, but it is still required to enter your residents and fellows scholarly activity each academic year. For your residents and fellows in ADS, verify that all trainees are accurately listed with their correct start dates, expected graduation dates, and their demographic information. For each, ensure that their work hour compliance and milestone assessments are submitted as required. Milestones must be entered for every resident or fellow twice per year, and as these were due back in June for this past academic year, that shouldn't be an issue at this point. But this is the primary tool that the ACGME uses to assess individual and program level progress. So it is critical to ensure timely assessment by the clinical competency and program director. Finally, residents and fellows in procedural specialties must keep their case logs current. ADS does pull case log data automatically, but it is the program's responsibility to make sure it's complete and reflective of the required experience. If you run into any issues or have any questions during this annual ADS update, they do have a help center in which you can submit requests or have your questions answered directly from the ADS support desk. This can be found in the top right-hand corner of your ADS homepage. And following any submitted questions, it is important to keep track of if you have any messages or new responses so that you can make updates in a timely manner. We'll now dive a little bit deeper into citations and AFIs, or areas for improvement, which are two key components to address in the ADS update, as well as a primary indicator of program and institutional success. Now, as part of the accreditation process, the ACGME may issue findings based on program or institutional performance and compliance. These findings typically fall into two categories, which we'll discuss now: citations and areas for improvement, or AFIs. A citation issued by the ACGME indicates a non-compliance with one of their requirements, whether it's program or institutional. It means that they have failed to meet a specific standard or requirement and must take corrective action through an action plan that is targeted towards improvement or change. Depending on the nature or severity of the citation, this may trigger a site visit or change in accreditation status. Citations remain in the program's or institution's record and are reviewed in future accreditation decisions until the citation has been resolved. For any unresolved citations, programs and institutions must draft a new response or provide updates to signify to the ACGME that the program or institution is taking accountability and is seeking improvement. An area for improvement, or an AFI, is a potential concern that doesn't currently rise to the level of a citation. It signals an area in which the review committee believes improvements are needed, but the program or institution is still technically in compliance. AFIs are intended to promote proactive quality improvement within the program or institution, and therefore should be addressed as part of the major changes section. If the AFI is resolved, it will never make it to a citation, but if it is not addressed within the accreditation cycle or within a time frame that the review committee finds acceptable, they may change this area to a citation at a later review date. In short, citations require correction, whereas AFIs require attention. Both are important opportunities to strengthen the program and show a commitment to continuous improvement. When reviewing our accreditation status for whether it be the program or institution, it is important to understand the difference between new citations and existing citations, and why well-documented action plans are essential. There are two main types of citations which we'll go through now. A new citation is issued when the ACGME Review Committee identifies a new area of noncompliance during the most review cycle. This reflects a recent or previously undocumented concern that now requires immediate attention and correction. An existing citation is one that was previously issued and remains unresolved or insufficiently addressed. These can carry more weight if not corrected, as they indicate persistent noncompliance. This is why it's always extremely important to review your previous citation responses for existing citations and making sure that you're updating them each academic year until the citation has been resolved. These updates should stay current, meaning you don't necessarily have to wait until this time frame each year to make those updates within the ADS system, but just simply keeping the same response from last year when it wasn't resolved won't make the cut for the ACGME to get that citation off of your list. Common areas for program-related citations include faculty development, scholarly activity, supervision or lack thereof, evaluation compliance, work hours, resources, any inpatient or outpatient required clinical experiences, fatigue mitigation, and program director responsibilities. Now that we've gone through a few of the common program-related citations, I'll pass it off to Amber to discuss the institutional citations and responding to those in AFIs.
Thanks, Claire. This slide illustrates the 5 primary categories of institutional citations ranked from most to least common. These categories include governance structure of GMAC oversight, educational oversight structure, institutional GME policies and procedures, learning and working environment, and institutional resources. Given that the majority of citations are related to GMAC oversight, I will now highlight the top 10 citations specifically associated with GMAC. Review and approval of required items, the annual institutional review, special reviews, statement of commitment, oversight practices, membership requirements, work hour oversight, DIO responsibilities, GMAC meeting minutes, and substantial disruption policy. It's crucial for institutions with GMAC-related citations to promptly address any updates or changes in their GMAC structure. This includes documenting these updates in the GMAC meeting minutes. Citations, both institutionally and program-related, are issued during the review committee's review cycle, which occurs annually or following a site visit. Once received, citations must be addressed through the accreditation data system during the annual update cycle and in preparation for site visits. It's essential to keep citation responses current at all times. Tracking citations throughout the academic year is critical, and this can be efficiently managed through the Program Evaluation Committee via the Annual Program Evaluation Action Plan. To stay organized, both the program and institutions should maintain a citation tracker, which can be stored in either a Word document or an Excel spreadsheet. As Claire mentioned earlier, areas for improvement, also known as AFIs, are not formal citations, but rather serve as a warning from the review committee. And these are issued to highlight areas that require attention before they potentially turn into citations. While institutions and programs are not required to formally respond to AFIs in the same way they do citations, they should be addressed in the annual institutional review and the program's annual program evaluation, as well as addressing them under the major changes section of the annual update, which I will discuss in more detail in a few slides. This slide has do's and don'ts when it comes to responding to citations and AFIs. When institutions and programs respond to citations, it's important to respond to the citation only. Get as specific as possible with specific dates or data points when applicable. Ensure that the interventions and methods to mitigate the issue in the future have been discussed, and be sure to discuss any supporting documents that the program or institution may have. Institutions and programs should never repeat the same response from the previous academic year. They should never put blame on the review committee or try to provide a justification to the citation or argue with the review committee or become defensive in the citation response. While the ideal is to have 0 citations or AFIs, receiving one should be seen as an opportunity for program improvement. Programs and institutions should use them to assess operations and promote success. When creating action plans related to citations and AFIs, programs and institutions should follow the SMART framework. So get specific, clearly define the goal, who's involved, and why it matters. Measurable, set criteria to track progress and determine success. Achievable, ensure the goal is realistic and possible with current resources. Relevant, align the goal with the program's mission and long-term objectives. And then time-bound, set clear deadlines to create urgency and focus efforts. Next, I will go over major changes and what to include at both the program and institutional level. The major changes section is a key and required part of the ACGME accreditation process. It's the institution and program's chance to share meaningful updates about the resident education and training with the review committees. These updates can help demonstrate compliance with accreditation standards, so accuracy and attention to detail is essential. This is also a valuable opportunity for programs to highlight their strengths, showcase successes, and address any areas for improvement. The major changes section is really the only open pipeline directly to the review committee. So it's important to include everything you want the review committee to know about your institution and program. It's important to track major changes throughout the year so that you can accurately report during the annual update. Both program level and institutional level changes should be captured. Some items that programs should include, like Claire mentioned, is the block diagram, clinical training updates, changes to participating sites or any faculty changes, faculty development and well-being initiatives, updates to educational activities, areas flagged as low compliance on the ACGME survey, and then some items that institutions should include are their match fill rate for their programs, any new or closed programs, leadership changes at the program level or within the GME office or hospital leadership changes, adverse accreditation actions, any updates to institutional resources and educational efforts, special reviews conducted, expected and unexpected site visits at the program level or at the institution, in programs which have been identified as high risk based on the ACGME survey, or any low compliance trends that you've noticed on the ACGME survey. Next, I will go over a few resources that ACGME provides. This slide has a few resources that ACGME provides, like the ADS Help Desk that Claire mentioned earlier, the Journal of Graduate Medical Education, Learn at ACGME, and of course the ACGME website. Claire and I will now go over a few citation examples and how to respond to those citations. So let me walk you through this example of a common institutional citation which relates to the GMAC's responsibility for educational oversight. The citation that this institution received stated that GMAC responsibilities must include oversight of the ACGME accreditation and recognition statuses of the sponsoring institution in each of its ACGME accredited programs. The provision of summary information of patient safety reports to residents, fellows, faculty members, and other clinical staff members. At a minimum, this oversight must include verification that such summary information is being provided. So the institution should respond to this citation with the following information included. The GMAC agenda has been revised to include a standing item at each quarterly meeting, which reviews the accreditation and recognition statuses of all programs. This includes reviewing any ACGME correspondences or updates with details captured in the meeting minutes for GMEC. And then additionally, each quarterly meeting now includes a report from the Quality and Patient Safety Department. And that report summarizes meetings held with residents and faculty to review patient safety data, review the safety dashboard, patient safety reports submitted by the residents, and the number of RCAs residents have been involved in. And then again, all of this is documented in the GMEC meeting minutes to demonstrate ongoing compliance and oversight. The next institutional citation example is related to the learning and working environment. In this case, the review committee noted that the institution did not demonstrate adequate oversight of resident work hours at the institutional level. The concern was that monitoring was only occurring at the program level. So a strong institutional response might include the following. The institution confirms that it maintains oversight of duty hours independently from the individual programs, and that each month the institutional coordinator or director of GME pulls the duty hour reports directly from the residency management software. And then these reports are reviewed, and if any violations or non-compliance are identified, the GME office contacts the affected program and requests a corrective action plan. The program then must submit their corrective action plan within X number of days of receiving the request. And then at the next GMEC meeting, both the duty hour report and the corresponding action plans are reviewed to ensure accountability and follow-up. This really demonstrates proactive at the institutional level monitoring that's compliant with program level oversight, which is already in place. Now I will pass it back over to Claire to go over a few examples at the program level.
Perfect. Thanks, Amber. So in this first example, it's related specifically to quality metrics and benchmark data. So the citation reads that residents and faculty members must receive data on quality metrics and benchmarks related to their patient populations. This was a new citation that was given following a site visit. So it was reported at the time of the site visit that while faculty members received this information, it was unclear whether residents are also provided with this information. A recommended response would be to acknowledge the importance of this requirement. Quality improvement and patient safety is a huge part of what the ACGME looks for that programs are providing. So it's important to clearly delineate the ways in which the program is in fact providing this information to both faculty members and residents. Listed here, we have that this data is distributed via a listserv that's accessible to all hospital employees, including residents. And the response also includes who is responsible for overseeing this information. So in this example, the program coordinator oversees the distribution process. So this is providing somebody who is responsible for rectifying this citation. And will also ensure that residents receive timely updates and relevant information regarding this benchmark data for their patient population. It also notes that residents and faculty members receive regular summaries of this information in order to monitor performance trends and any areas for improvement regarding patient care. This information, as noted, is instrumental in guiding clinical practice, so acknowledging to the ACGME the role that this quality information plays in guiding the practice of the specialty program. And additionally, the program coordinator uploads these quality benchmark summaries to the residency management software. Another important aspect of this recommended response is what the program has done since the site visit. So the first half does kind of reiterate what is available to the residents and faculty members, whereas the second half goes one step further and says, we acknowledge why we received this citation. Here's how we look to fix it. So since the site visit, the program has held an educational session, which was intended to review the quality metrics that are provided on the residents and faculty patient populations, as well as how to access this information. So again, reiterating and reviewing this information with residents and fellows. It's also noted that this educational session will continue to be held on an annual basis to serve as a training session for any new residents within the program, as well as a refresher for any current residents and faculty who may be less familiar or have just forgotten on where to access this information. In our second program citation example, this is an extended citation that was given and is related to the learning and working environment. So the citation notes that the program director must provide a learning and working environment in which residents have the opportunity to raise concerns, report any mistreatment, and provide feedback in a confidential manner as appropriate, without fear of intimidation or retaliation. So it was noted that the information provided to the review committee continued to not demonstrate compliance with this requirement via the resident surveys that was reported. It was also noted that at the time of the site visit, residents did feel that the program was making some progress, but the actual implementation of receiving resident feedback and turning this into an actionable item had yet to happen. Now, this requirement for both the institution and program is very important. It's a major concern area for the ACGME if they feel like residents do not have access to any sort of confidential or anonymous reporting mechanisms. They place a really high value on this, and we do see this occasionally if residents and fellows are just unaware of the reporting processes in place. So in this recommended response, we're noting that the program does acknowledge the review committee's concerns and appreciates the opportunity to address them. So it's not placing any blame, it's understanding the importance of the requirement and understanding that the citation was given because people were unaware of what was happening within the program. So they're recognizing that improvements have been made, but the 23-24 resident survey did not demonstrate that residents fully feel that they are aware of these processes, and one step further, that these processes are effective. We also find it beneficial to list the various processes that are available for this reporting. So whether this is an in-person open door policy that is upheld, anonymous program evaluation, so that's the internal program survey that you send out, as well as the ACGME resident survey is a great tool for the program to gauge how residents feel about certain areas. There could also be an anonymous feedback link via the residency management software in which the program coordinator or program director regularly checks to see if there have been any recently reported concerns or issues. A physical lockbox in the resident lounge has seemed to go over well in the past. People feel like they can approach it with their peers, but still in an anonymous way without going and talking to somebody in person face to face. And additionally, the program will hold an annual education session on these methods. So a key part of this is to explain to residents and faculty members what the program values and how they're going to take the steps to resolve any resident concerns and address that feedback in a timely manner. Overall, when responding to citations, whether it's institutional or program specific, it is important to acknowledge that for whatever reason, there's been a failure to meet the requirement and maintain compliance with the requirement. But moving forward, want to clearly explain how you plan to address it, what actionable items have been taken, and hopefully how the residents and fellows respond to this in a positive manner.
Thank you, Claire and Amber. We'll now open the floor up for questions from the audience. If you have a question, please type it in the chat. And we're going to start with this one. My program has an AFI related to faculty scholarly activity. Since the ACGME no longer requires reporting of faculty scholarly activity in the annual update, how can I determine if the AFI has been resolved?
So the AFI related to the faculty scholarly activity should be reported and discussed under the major changes section. And typically AFIs are considered resolved if they have been removed from the letter of notification that you received during the next review cycle. If it has not turned into a citation, then I would consider it resolved.
Great, thanks. The residents and fellows at my institution are trying to form a union. Should this be discussed under major changes?
I believe that if it's still ongoing talks and nothing has truly happened yet regarding forming a union, I would not include it in the major changes section. This is really the chance to, as we discussed, address those areas for improvement and any current updates that are happening within the program. So if it's still in talks and no changes have been definitively made, I would hold off on including it.
Next one, when updating the institutional annual update, do all of the attachments, including the business agreement, need to be updated and uploaded?
So they do not need to be updated. You can update them as if you want to. It depends if your program is receiving a site visit to get off of initial accreditation, then you would upload all of the attachments. But typically they don't have to be updated annually, but you can update them if you would like. Or if you feel that there's any supporting information or documents that would support what you're putting in your citation responses or major changes.
Great. My family medicine program has a citation related to the patient population in the FMP being inadequate to meet the requirements for residents. We're planning to add a new FMP site, though we're unsure of the timeline. Should we include this plan in our citation response?
Yeah, so this is a difficult one, and it depends on a few different factors. So if you know the exact timeline that you plan to submit your FMP request, then I would include it in your citation response if you don't have any other option for increasing those patient encounters for your resident. But what I would do is, if you're going to put that in your citation response, be sure that you have very clear deadlines and that they're achievable. So thinking of that SMART action plan. So make sure that it's achievable, that you're going to add it when you say you are. And then you want to make sure you discuss the program's plan for submitting the request, when you plan to have the residents rotate there, and then how will this new FMP affect the residents and ensuring that they see all of their patient encounters.
Thank you. Is there anywhere to update our revised supervision policy, which was updated due to missing particulars regarding supervision of PGY1s? I can't find anywhere to update documents except for the block schedule. This is in response to a citation.
Okay, if that's okay. If your program is still in initial accreditation, there will be an updated application section that opens for your upcoming site visit for continued accreditation. If not, and you want to upload it still, there may be a section under uploads for others, but without a site visit upcoming, they really don't check for recent uploads or changes to that documentation. If it is something that benefits your citation response, I would include the exact language of what was updated in the policy in that response, and just noting that this is reflected and has been distributed to all residents and faculty members.
And just to piggyback on that, Claire, if there isn't anywhere to upload that, or you don't want to upload the supervision policy, I would copy and paste the exact language that you have added or revised in your supervision policy under the citation response.
Great. That looks like one more right now. My institution has completed 3 special reviews last academic year. What should be discussed under major changes?
Yeah, so I would include which programs underwent a special review, what the reason was, and then provide a brief overview of the steps that were taken throughout that process and what the outcome was. It's also really important that from the institutional perspective, this is noted in your GMEC meeting minutes that the special review was conducted to ensure that the GMEC is providing oversight of those outcomes as part of that requirement.
Okay, thank you. Looks like all the questions for now. I want to thank our presenters for the information and insights they provided. In wrapping up our session, we want to thank all of you for participating. As noted earlier, you'll receive an email this afternoon with a short survey to complete, as well as a copy of the presentation. If you have any outstanding questions after today's presentation, please email Hunter Rich at hrich@germane-solutions.com. Details and registration information for upcoming webinars can be found on LinkedIn or on our website, and our marketing team will ensure that every participant in this webinar receives an email containing the sign-up link for the upcoming webinar. To be included in any important future announcements, follow Germane Solutions on LinkedIn or contact us on the website. And I thank you again for your participation in today's webinar.
Thank you.
Thank you.